How's it going, everybody? Before we even start with the video, I just quickly want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or whatever else you are or are not celebrating. I wanted to put this in the last video already, but somehow I forgot at the end, so I'll do it now. I hope everyone is staying safe and enjoys the time with their family, if it's possible. If not, at least give them a call and let them know you're thinking of them. With all that in mind, I wanted to talk about a little lighter subject, I guess, but maybe it isn't for some. The topic today is faction bias. Just in general, not specifically from the community or from Ubisoft. When thinking about it, the notion that there is something like this when we talk about balance is actually quite ridiculous. But on the other hand, almost every time we see changes or proposed changes to heroes, we scratch our heads and notice that there somehow is always a distinct difference when problems are tackled for heroes of different factions. What I'm talking about is the notion of knight bias. It somehow always feels like they get the best deal overall, best small change, or best overall rework. The whole approach of picking out one faction and deliberately making it the best seems quite a weird one. And I firmly believe that this isn't done on purpose. It just can't be. Yet, a lot of people joke about it. I joke about it. Watch the early access videos where I go over the changes of the 4 heroes in the last testing grounds. I made tons of comments in regard to faction bias. How Warden got tons of compensation buffs, while the Samurai were more side grades. But let's just look at what's at hand. The community's perception is that Knights are favoured by the devs, followed by the Vikings, and then the Samurai. And Wu-lin are just hated in general, they're pay-to-win DLC, and will never be balanced. Am I right, kids? It is such a ridiculous notion, but it isn't completely removed from the truth. You'd think it would be only a cosmetic difference in the grand scheme of things, but at the release of the game, the factions did have some gameplay differences. Most of those have been phased out by now, but I think it's worth mentioning. Maybe I'm misremembering, just because we really didn't write down everything back then. Nor a patch note's always complete, but stamina pause has always been considered a knight thing. You get hit by a bash and your stamina regeneration pauses. Well, it used to still drain even while out of stamina back then, so a conk could keep you out of stamina for extended periods of time. Nowadays, stamina pause can be found in all factions, but knights still have the most of them. Vikings, on the other hand, had the feature that they would drain stamina with throws and on balance, if that drain put you out of stamina. Most notably a raider thing, he spun you around, and if that spinning drained all of your stamina, you'd end up on the ground. Warlord had it, even Zerker had it. Zerker even had damage on his throws, but that was unique to him. Oh, and Valkyrie could charge a headbutt GB throw, which was useless, but she could. And then Samurai, I don't know, I don't think they ever had anything. And by the time the Wu-lin came around, all of those differences had been patched out already. So the only noticeable differences between faction on a gameplay level are unique feats. But the Wu-lin started taking faction specific ones as well, so that one went out of the window too. For the lack of a better term, the uniqueness of the factions got watered down here. But they are still extremely distinct. Faction identity is extremely strong. Players do identify with their faction. They pick heroes exclusively out of one and broadcast their affiliation on the specific subreddits. Arguments that these in-game changes would change that have long been disproven. Another angle people look at is the faction war. The system is just a little flawed, and in the end the Vikings win. They've teased us with a rework of that thing for, I don't know, 2 years now? It's kind of irrelevant, but I do enjoy getting free rewards every season. So, is there actually any evidence that we do in fact have a faction bias when it comes to balance? Is there any incentive from Ubisoft to do this? Well, there is obviously always some incentive, but if the whole process can backfire, then why even try? One of the things we could look at are pick rates. Because you'd think if you are biased towards a faction, then pick the one that most people play in, or rather heroes from that one. It's been a while since they gave us a win-loss ratio graphic. I'm looking at a news post from June here. Guess we complained too much and they finally said fuck them if they don't appreciate what we give them. A sentiment I can get behind to a degree. But never mind, what does it tell us? Obviously, Wu-lin are at the very bottom. They just weren't really all that successful. And at the top, we mostly have knight heroes and Orochi. So, throughout all these years, not much has changed. Warden and Orochi are the most picked heroes, and while the knights being up there might actually strengthen the faction bias argument, what the fuck does Orochi's state of balance say then? That hero has received exactly what we talked about in the beginning. Tons of nerfs, and then a small compensation buff in the form of an unblockable, which still left him in a, well, not so great spot. So if Ubisoft actually took pick rates into consideration and buffed heroes to make the majority happy, then they did a horrible job when it comes to Orochi. So if it isn't pick rate, then what is it? We could start the wildest speculations here. Random members of the dev team just preferring certain factions and they're forcing the balance to go a certain way. Like Stefan liking Shaman, that's why she never gets nerfed. Don't you dare touch her now that I mentioned this. It's Christmas, and I wish for no Shaman nerfs, alright? All in all, I don't even know if Ubisoft should acknowledge it. The second they mention it, people are gonna construe even bigger conspiracies of why their own hero will never be buffed, and how everything's unfair and whatnot. But if they never address it and stay on course with their balance changes, then I don't think the cries will stop anytime soon. Whatever people choose as their excuse for why their character's bad, or why the opponent's hero is so much stronger, and whether this involves factions at all, people will never stop to complain about balance. But if we focused on the actual problems, completely detached from factions, gender of a hero, or all other completely irrelevant things, we might be able to give better feedback and bring our points across much more conclusive instead of watering it down with stuff like I just mentioned. In the end, it does not matter what faction a hero belongs to. It is such a non-issue. If it's a good hero with good mechanics that enriches the game, then why would we make a big deal about all the other things? And don't get me wrong, fashion and all that is important, but that is also something we get regular updates for. So let's leave it at all that. Once again, enjoy the holidays, don't drink too much, and thanks for watching. Laters everybody. Oh, you... Yeah. Get hit by neutral shove, my man. Alright, well...